Welcome back, everybody, to another Python tutorial. We are continuing our series on the PyODBC library. So on the last video in this particular series, we saw how to connect to an SQL server using the PyODBC library. And in this particular video, we're going to be covering how to connect to an Excel workbook and querying some information from that workbook. So very handy. But as most people know, there's many different ways to connect to an Excel workbook inside of Python. This is just simply another tool in your arsenal that you can leverage if you need to connect to an Excel workbook. And also kind of gives you a nice foundation if you actually ever have to work with an ODBC driver in Excel, just as an FYI. Alrighty. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this workbook. I had an original one, but something happened and it was only in read-only mode. And so I'm going to tell you about a little error that I ran into. But as you can see right here, all this information here is just some, dummy data with some column headers, and it exists on sheet 1. The goal, very simple, is to simply select this data and import it into Python. So the name is video list 2, the sheet name is sheet 1, and these are our column headers. So I'm going to close that out. One final requirement before you actually get started in here is you need to download a driver. You might not have it by default. Some people might. Just depends what you've had installed on your system and all that thing. Regardless, if you do not have it, and you'll know very quickly that you don't have it because you won't have it in your drivers list. But if you don't have it, I'll put this link in the description below. You just want to install it and follow the installation instructions. It's very straightforward and it's very easy to use. So don't worry, not hard at all, especially for Windows user. I mean, just piece of cake. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do here is now we can get started in coding and all that fun stuff. First thing we're going to do is we're going to import PyODBC. That's the library we're working with. And then we're going to insert a cell below. Alrighty, and then anytime that we kind of work with this, I like to have an idea of what drivers I have access to, because I find, at least, this is a way that I can kind of pick the driver that I need without having to remember the string, because the strings can be kind of long, and if you don't put the exact dot where it is and all that kind of fun stuff, you get all sorts of fun stuff that you don't want to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to print each driver we have access to. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say for driver in PyODBC drivers, simply print that driver. And you can see on my system, I got a bunch of SQL Server ones, MySQL, ODBC, ODBC, and then we got all this stuff down here, Microsoft Access, Microsoft Excel. You guessed it, we're going to be using this one. And so an easy way to kind of capture this one is you can just say, well, if you see this in the string name, that's the driver you're looking for. So we're going to grab the Excel driver, and we'll store it in a variable so that way we can leverage it down the road. And so we'll say if, and then we'll do .xlsx, hope I said that right, in driver, then simply assign that to this variable called my driver. And so I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to print out and make sure we got it. Perfect. So this is, again, a nice way to just not have to remember the string. You can just do it up here and then assign it in that connection string. Now, you can technically just copy this string as well. It's up to you. I'm not here to tell you how to do that. I'm just giving you an option if you want to go down this way. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've got our driver, we need to define our connection string. So this is going to be the connection string to access our particular Excel workbook. That's all. And so we'll store it in a variable called connection string, and we'll put in our little brackets. Very important that you spell it exactly as I'm about to show it to you. We're going to do driver equals, and then we're going to do our squirrely brackets, quotation marks, plus my driver, and then we'll do plus, and then I'll put a comma semicolon at the end, and then a single quote. Okay, next line. We're now going to define the file path, and we define that by setting equal to our dbq parameter, and I'm lazy, I'm just going to copy it from here. Properties, security, and just copy that sucker. There used to be a little bug on here where if I copy it, it would copy this random character that wasn't supposed to be there. Not fun, because that was lingering for a while, unfortunately. So we've defined the location of our file. And then finally, very important that we define this parameter, read only. We're going to set it equal to 1. What we're saying is I only want to just read the data. I don't want to edit the data. If you set it equal to 0, you can edit the data. So you can technically dump data into your Excel workbook. And we might do that at some point. So read only 0 means you can edit the data. So might come in handy. So you have your connection string now. Now we can connect to our data source and we can create a cursor. So create a connection. And that's pretty straightforward. We just can define a new variable, connection. We're going to call our PYODBC library. We're going to call the connect method. And then we're going to pass through our connection string. And there's this other parameter. It's called autocommit. We have to set that equal to true. I was reading the documentation. I wasn't able to get an answer as why we have to set this to equal to true. But they say if you do not set it equal to true, it will not work. And I tried it when we set it not equal to true, and it didn't work. You guessed it. I don't know why, but for some reason we have to have autocommit set to true. All right, and so once we've done that, we can define our cursor. We're just going to call our connection object, and then we're going to call the cursor method. And then this returns the cursor object that we can now interact with our particular workbook. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through all the tables in my workbook. The tables being the worksheets themselves. Well, you saw in my workbook, there's only one worksheet. Well, that should be pretty easy then. So we'll call our cursor object, and then we'll call the tables method. And then this is going to obviously return all of our tables. And maybe the first thing I want to do is just simply print that worksheet. Object is not callable. What did I do wrong? My driver, DBQ, read only. It's always a new one, I'm telling you. DBQ equals that. Yeah, that's fine. Read only is fine. At least I think it is. Driver. That's fine. There's always something, I swear to God. Oh. Would help if I had an equal sign there. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't put an equal sign. So obviously it doesn't know what it's doing. So as you can tell here, it did print out the worksheet. Now there's a couple pieces of information. There's obviously the file path itself, the name of the table. In this case, it's just simply the sheet name. And then the type of table, so it's a system table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the sheet name because I'm going to use that in our query. Now in this example, it makes sense to just assign it. Obviously, if there's more tables, you might have to approach it a little bit differently. But the important part to know is that the information you're looking for is inside these particular tuples if you want to kind of automate the process. So we'll grab the table name. And so we'll just define a new variable. We'll call it table name. And then we'll set that equal to our worksheet variable. And then we'll just grab the second item, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can define our query. So define our query to execute. And so from here, we're going to call our cursor object. We're going to call the execute method. And then we have to define, ooh, here I go again. Type too quick. We're going to do select. In this case, we'll just do a single column, topic, from, we'll put brackets, and then squirrely brackets. And then we'll do format, and then I'll pass through that table name parameter. So really what it's going to look like, if I kind of copy it up here, just so you guys understand, it would look something like this. That is how your query would look. Okay, so now that you've done that, we can loop through the results. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for row in cursor print. Now in this case, I can just do topic. And so I now have all the stuff just like that. Now I could obviously do more if I wanted to. I could do code status, and then I could do print row code status, just like that. I could just do a select all, just do my little star. Maybe I don't care about all the detail. I just want the actual row itself. Well, there you go. Now you've selected the entire row. Now you probably still should be able to do, like, for example, row topic. That still works. So there's nothing special where it's like, well, if you don't define the names up here, you can't use it. No, that's not the case. You can still use it that way. It's really up to you how you want to do it. And, just again, for your kind of reference, sometimes what I like to do is I'll just print out and see exactly kind of what this object does and what my options are and things along that particular nature. Again, if I need it. In this case, for the most part, once you've gotten to this point, it's usually pretty easy. This is where I was getting caught up on. I really didn't know how to write the queries. I didn't really understand what the connection string need to look like. This was a pain to find. That was really a pain to find. But once I found it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it, but kind of not intuitive at the same time too. So again, very useful, different ways to do it, obviously. This is just another option that you can leverage if you want. So if you have any questions about connecting to an Excel workbook using the PYODBC library, please, as always, put them down in the comments below, and I'll try to help you if you're having any issues along that nature. And then also, if you could, please make sure to like the video. Sorry. We always appreciate the support. And if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow, obviously, as you can imagine. We broke 1,400 today, so that was really exciting, or maybe during the night. Yeah, we got definitely a decent amount last like 2 months. It's been interesting. So I think we're starting to ramp up a little bit. It's fun stuff. It's always good when you've seen it's growing. So thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video.